Third reading of bills.
SB1211, an act amending Section 9837 and 15113 Arizona Revised Statutes, amending Title 15, Chapter 1, Article 1 Arizona Revised Statutes by adding Section 15113.01, amending Section 15721, 15722, and 15730 Arizona Revised Statutes relating to student instruction.
Members, you've all heard the third reading of Senate Bill 1211. Those in favor of the measure vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The system is now open. The Senate will now proceed to vote. Senator Marsh, would you like to explain your vote?
Yes, Madam President, I rise to explain my vote.
Please do.
We need to remember the unintended consequences of this bill. I am 100% in favor of transparency and parental involvement in schools because I know firsthand that an open communication between parents and teachers allows for better instruction and adaptability for the students. But there are other ways to facilitate that without this particular bill, which will have, as I said, unintended consequences on both students and on teachers. Many of those students' teachers won't be spending as much time with them as they could otherwise because they're going to be busy loading thousands of points of data online every week or two. And sure, some teachers, for various reasons, will be able to load a lot of that information early in the school year, but most won't be able to do that. So many of our teachers are brand new. So many others are so overwhelmed that they're lucky if they're able to stay half a step ahead of the class. And that is going to place a burden on teachers, which directly and indirectly affects the kids. If I've got, 30 hours a week that I'm devoting to school outside of school, which is what a normal teacher devotes, then I've got to gauge how much of that time I'm going to be spending grading, meeting with students, planning curriculum, etc., and now factoring in loading thousands of points of data, which takes away time from all of that other stuff that directly benefits kids. Again, I believe we absolutely need 100% transparency, but there were other ways to do that without this bill, and with that I vote no.
Members, have you all voted? Members, have you all voted? Senator Bartow, you're on the board.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote.
Please do.
I just wanted to respond and let people know how I just don't see how any of those points would be reason to vote no against a transparency bill that will truly allow parents to see firsthand what's happening in the instruction that their child is getting, something that the law guarantees that they have, but they are not able to actually experience now. First of all, the time that it will take is basically going to be a time saver, a bill like this, because it's been even testified by opponents, teachers who oppose the bill, even in their testimony, they were saying that they already do something like this. What it will require is merely putting up the title of what they're teaching, of their lesson plans every week, and not the entire year in advance, which some somehow translate this bill as requiring. Nope, it's within 7 days after. So they just have to use something like a Google Doc, which many are using already. It was testified over and over again. Also, to the thousands of pages of data, that just speaks to that as well. There's no copying, photocopying involved. It's merely the titles of what you're teaching, the videos, the supplemental titles of what the activities, just the listing, like a syllabus. New teachers are going to benefit greatly from this. They'll be learning from veteran teachers more and more, and they'll learn from one another by being able to see what other teachers are doing. Right now, according to several studies, teachers spend over 4 hours a week searching for materials to use in their classrooms. They're going to Google, they're going to pay teachers pay teachers, and other sites. They're having to research all kinds of ways to reach students. This is going to be a great opportunity to help new teachers right off the bat. So I just really appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and with that, I vote aye.
Thank you. Senator Ugenti-Rita, you're on the board now.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote.
Please do.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay. So I like the intent of this bill. I understand its purpose and what it's trying to do. Here's where I have some concerns. That it really doesn't get at the heart of the issue. Putting up loads and loads and loads of information isn't really going to solve the problem that we have in K-12. We have a leadership problem in K-12. We have a problem with teacher unions. We have a problem with board members who sit on school boards who are elected in nonpartisan races and nobody knows who they are. That's the problem we have. I, again, understand the spirit of it, but it's really not enough to get at the problem. This will leave parents with the impression that something is done when nothing is done. I don't know what our obsession is with putting things online, but you need to really go after the sacred cow, and it's not materials online, it's elections. It's these nonpartisan school board elections. The other thing that I have a concern with is that it, in my opinion, really does add a lot of busy work for teachers. Again, I think some of it is good. Parents should have access to information. They should have access to what's being taught. But this is very intense and I think overkill. I can't stress enough that we have a much bigger problem than material online. So for me, this is a supplement. It's like if you have real deep health problems, a vitamin isn't going to fix it. You need to diet, you need to exercise. This is helpful, but it's really not going to get at the problem at our schools. This isn't going to keep schools open. This really is going to do very little other than look as though we're doing something. Now, with all of that said, I know that the sponsors work very hard on it, and I appreciate that. So I'm going to support it today, but I'd like to get a commitment from the chair in the House as well as the sponsor that we could work on tailoring this so that, one, it's implementable, and two, maybe it can do more than just put information online in this, I think, way, way, way too broad of categories. I think you have to, I think you really have to limit what you're doing, and you have to see if that has any kind of value before you increase it to the level of this bill. But with that said, I know that it's going in the right direction, and I know the spirit of it, so I'll vote aye, and I hope that those changes happen in the House. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, ma'am. Senator Pace, you're up next.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote.
Please do.
Thank you. November, during the election time, I had to take a lot of Tums for heartburn, and it's because of these kind of things. But there's a lot to take in on this bill, and for the last few years, I have spent a lot of time negotiating this bill. And over the summer, I met with our House Education Chair, and I sat down with her, and I said, for several years, I would spend hours negotiating on this bill with all the, proponents of it. We would come up with something that Senator Pace could support, and then it would go over to the House, and then it would ultimately not make it out of the House because other people needed to find a way to support it. So I decided to try something different this year. I went straight to the place where it failed and said, if you can get comfortable with it, I'm sure that you obviously are going to be more strict than I am and come up with a negotiating. So they did. Unfortunately, I realized that maybe I'm the more strict of the two. So I still have a couple things as I'm reading it, but I am committed to this process. I just want to talk about a few things. The part that brings me some issue is what is the information that we upload online, and that's been the debate for the last few years, is do I upload every website my kids go to in their classrooms? Do I upload every book? If they read a book in their classroom, does that count? If it's not required reading, if it is required reading, so my boys' third grade class, they got 1,000 books, and they say, go ahead and read one, but you have to read a book today. Which one of those 1,000 books is required reading? Because they have to reread a book and they get to choose from it, but it's not a part of a list of a required reading. So a lot of this is always catered to what we would refer to as a high school level or junior high level, where the classroom style is much more syllabus based. But as we know with elementary, that's not the case. And so that's why I've had some heartburn with the way we pare those down. However, I did have an experience recently that an anecdotal experience myself that makes this even harder for me, and that is my boys came home from school and they said, when we finish our exams, we get to play video games. And I'm like, ha, 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 you do? ? And sure enough, they did get to play some video games. I didn't know anything about that. And while they were harmless and things like that, that was one of those things where I'm sure several of their peers weren't telling mom and dad that they get to play some of these video games. And I thought, maybe it's Math Blaster or something educational. And I brought this up with somebody. I don't think Cupcake Vampire Princess makeup tutorials counts as educational. And that was one of the games allowed to be played when you finish an exam. And so I think there is a need for this transparency. I too will work with to make sure that it pares down just a little bit some of those things that I had last year that I didn't think would needed to be negotiated, as I know the House Chairwoman has been working on this, but we'll work with her to continue that. And so for today, I will vote yes, and we'll look forward to seeing this again soon.
Thank you, Senator Pace. Senator Leach?
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote.
Please do.
I'm going to be quiet because this looks like it's going to be passing.
Thank you, sir.
With that, I vote aye.
Thank you, sir. Senator Boyer,
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote.
please do.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, as Senate Education Chairman, I'm very cognizant of anything that we do to Title 15 that impacts teachers, especially mandates. This particular bill, I believe, is one of the most important, if not the most important bill of the session. I'm going back to teaching full-time in the fall. I'll have to implement this myself. And folks, it's really, it's painless. I mean, as teachers, we're always submitting lesson plans every single week. It's so simple that a teacher can just upload it to a Google Doc or to a Word doc. That's just the titles of whatever it is that we taught for the week. And so it's really not a burden on teachers. We're already doing this. Now, some of you know that parents, not all of them, but some of them do distrust some of their school districts. It's no surprise to anybody. This does really help to alleviate that. It also has the side benefit of helping teachers. Here's why. As I mentioned in Cal, it's really beneficial for me as a teacher to see the school next door, the district school, they're an A school. What are they doing? What type of teaching materials do they have? Maybe, just maybe, I can apply some of those same teaching materials in my classroom, and maybe I can up that in my particular classroom. I know that there'll be many teachers that think about that. Instead of going to Google or to Teachers Pay Teachers or some other random source for good curriculum, now, hopefully, if this bill passes, they'll have that option available to them by the fall. It also benefits students because they don't get a helter-skelter approach of, well, here's a grab bag of curriculum for today, and tomorrow I have no idea, but I'm going to go on Google and figure something out, as opposed to time-tested, timeless curriculum that has benefited students for decades, in some case centuries. And so with that, Madam President, I vote aye.
Thank you, sir. System is now closed. Secretary will now record the vote. By a vote of 16 ayes, 13 nays, 1 not voting, you have passed Senate Bill 1211. Signed in open session. Secretary is instructed to record the action, transmit the bill to the House. Third reading of bills.